Okay, today we're going to make breaded chicken cutlets, which then we're going to let it become chicken parm. So 2 meals here. You could either have breaded chicken cutlets with the red sauce we made yesterday, or you can take it a step further and have chicken parm. Um, I'm actually not using cutlets today. Sometimes I do pound them out to thin cutlets, but today I'm using these tenderloins, which we use a lot. My children liked them when they were growing up, and so I still continue to use them. To start off with, I don't use commercial breadcrumbs. I make my own. I had this loaf of stale Italian bread that was ready to be thrown out, but it was still good. I didn't want to waste it, so I grind it up into my own breadcrumbs. I've got a few left here to do, so let's get those ground up, and then we'll be ready to start breading our chicken cutlets. Some of these are pretty big, so I'm going to pull out the big ones. We don't want those. Nice fine breadcrumbs. Okay, I'm going to set this aside in case we need it later. I don't want to put raw chicken into all the breadcrumbs in case we don't use them all, then that would be a waste. Now, let's talk for a minute about a standard breading procedure. You guys probably know what this is, but I've taught other people how to cook who didn't really know what the standard breading procedure was. So we're going to talk about that for a second. You take 1 egg, which you scramble lightly, add a tablespoon of water, mix that up really, really good. Okay, that's good. Now I have these nifty little bowls. I like to put them together so they don't slide. And I also put a damp towel underneath because that keeps them from sliding. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bread, our chicken, lightly salt it. Excuse me for a second, I want to get a little bowl to put some salt in so I don't contaminate all of the salt in the salt well. With chicken, you've got to be really careful not to cross-contaminate. So I'm going to lightly salt this first layer of chicken, right? I'm also going to put a little salt in my flour, a little salt in my eggs, and just a little salt in the breadcrumbs, and mix that up nicely. This I'll do with my fingers. Okay, there we go. And then a little pepper as well before we mess our hands up. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to use the one dry hand, one wet hand method. That way, I don't have 2 hands that are covered in breadcrumbs. So the way that works is first we're going to lightly flour our chicken. And the reason we only want a little bit of flour on there is because this is to give the egg wash something to adhere to. If you just put the egg wash straight on the chicken, it would all slide off. So we're going to lightly flour a few of them, and then we'll take it through the whole procedure. Okay, and then I kind of pat all the flour off, so it's just a very light coating of flour, tossing it back and forth between my hands. Okay, I'm going to move this pan over here to be the landing gear. Okay, now I'm not going to wet this hand again. I'm only going to use this hand for dry, this hand for wet. I'm going to put that in the breadcrumbs. The egg wash helps the breadcrumbs adhere to the chicken. Make sure they're nicely coated. That one needs a tad more. Okay. And then we make sure that they're nicely coated with the breadcrumbs. And put them aside on a tray where they have an opportunity to dry a little bit and set. So I will take all of these chicken tenders that I have here, and I'll get them all breaded, ready to go, and then we'll take them over to the frying pan. Okay, now we're over here at the frying pan. I've put in Actually, I use canola oil. You want to use an oil that doesn't have a lot of flavor because you don't want to flavor the chicken with the oil. In this instance, I don't want to use the extra virgin olive oil because it has a very low smoking point, so it'll get smoky before you're ready to put the chicken in. So the oil is hot. I'm going to add the chicken, and there's that sizzle we're looking for. Here we go. You don't want to crowd the pan. You want to leave a little space in between each one of them. And if you do crowd the pan, what happens is the oil cools down really fast, and then it's not hot enough, and your chicken will just get really greasy. And we don't want that. We don't want oily chicken. So I'm just going to put that amount in there. I've got it on, I need to turn it up just a tad. It's on like a medium to a medium high. And we're just going to let those fry until right around the edges you'll start to see a little bit of a browning. Right here it's turning white. I'm just going to let it go just a few more minutes, turn it over. We want to make sure it's done, but as we see it get brown around the edges, then we know it's getting there. It's getting close to being done. I've prepared a pan here for putting them on. Okay, now we're on our last step of our chicken Parmesan. This is the sauce that we made earlier. Yesterday we made it. And just as a side note, I'd like to just tell you what I do when I make sauce. I usually make 3 of the large 28-ounce cans of tomatoes. That yields probably about 2 to 3 quarts of sauce. We use it that day. We usually have some kind of meal with a red sauce, whether it's meatballs or Parmesan or whatever. And I always have enough left over to have 2 or 3 more meals. This week we'll probably have pizza. We'll use the sauce for the pizza. We're having chicken parm tonight. Maybe next weekend I'll freeze it and we'll have meatballs. And so this is not a one-dish meal, a one-meal dish. This can last you for several meals. I like to do that rather than making sauce 3 or 4 times. I make it, get it out of the way. So the way we're going to start this is first I'm going to put just a little coating of sauce on the bottom of my pan, an oven-proof pan, because this is going to go in the oven. I don't want it to be real thick and soupy. I just want it to, cover the bottom a little bit so that when the chicken lays there, it'll have a little bit of sauce to lie on. Okay? I'll spread that out just a little bit. Let me just get a towel so I can wipe this off because neatness counts. Just clean that up a little bit. Okay? Now we're going to lay the chicken in, and I'm going to line them up in this pan. Not crowding them at all. I don't want them to be crowded. Probably about 5 that way, and then maybe 4 more. Let me get the nice crusty ones. We probably won't use all of these that I cooked today. Again, it'll make another meal. Chicken sandwiches, chicken, a meal for lunch tomorrow. So there we go. We've got those in. Now for the Parmesan part of this dish, we're going to sprinkle some freshly grated Parmesan over the chicken, just a little bit. And then on top of that, I've got some sliced mozzarella. And I'm going to put 1 slice over each piece of chicken. If it's a small slice, then I'll, just so, I don't want the chicken completely covered with the cheese because I want to leave some of the crusty part because that's a pretty good part of the chicken. A little bit of cheese on each one. I've preheated the oven to 350. And once the oven gets preheated to 350, then I turn the broiler on so that they can heat completely through, but also I want the cheese to melt and get bubbly. So there we go. Just 1 piece on there. I actually think this is a bit too much for that piece, so let's tear that in half. It's going to look a little bit rustic, but that's okay because we kind of like that look. And then we're going to just put a dab of sauce over that. Just a dab, because we're looking for melted cheese. So just to give it the red sauce taste without smothering the chicken in the red sauce. Now we're going to put this in the oven that's set at broil already. It's a preheated oven to 350 and then turn to broil. Nice and hot. Stick that in the oven. That broiler is nice and hot. And we're going to let it broil for 3 to 4 minutes. We have to keep a close eye on it. So I'll turn the light on in the oven. And just keep a close eye. Okay, so we've got our chicken parm. It's all ready, nice and bubbly. I've previously made some penne pasta, which I boiled in water that was nice and salty. Salty like the sea is the way we like to do it. So I'm going to add my sauce to the penne so we can plate this dinner up and enjoy a great meal. So we put just a little bit of sauce in there, toss it around. Let me get the parm. Hold on just a second. We're going to toss a little bit of parm in there. Toss that around. Doesn't that look delicious? I wish you could smell it. It's so good. A little pasta. A little chicken parm on the side. It's nice and cheesy, that's for sure. Let's just get rid of that little cheese. There we go. And there you have it, another great recipe from the Garlic Rose. Chicken parm, penne with red sauce. Be sure to check out my other recipes on my YouTube channel.